California fires all over the news, all over the world. What's happening out in California is a tragedy. And I got the news that three family members of mine were affected. My auntie, whose house was burned down, my cousin, her house was burned down, and my other auntie, her house was not burned down, but she's still devastated because 80% of her neighborhood was burned down. So I am happy to report that everyone is okay, but it's a tragedy. They're saying that it's like they're in a war-torn country. They just can't believe the level of devastation that's going on in California. So this is something that I've been paying really, really close attention to every day since it's happened. Now, fires in California is a common occurrence. It seems like it happens every single year. It's something that we've grown accustomed to. It's like a natural disaster that's natural, like a hurricane that hits the Gulf of Mexico. But this particular fire was one that no one that I've talked to that lives in California has seen anything like this. Family members and friends that I've talked to, they haven't seen anything to this magnitude. And there has to be accountability. There has to be accountability. And I know people who are politicians are going to say, well, we don't want you to politicize this. If you are not fulfilling your duties to the best of your abilities, and if you don't have the people's best interests in mind, then you should be held accountable. You should be called out for it. There's no, oh, well, don't politicize this. No, you are a politician. You are an elected official. You are held accountable. This is your job. The state of California is known for their wildfires. So these are things that that's going to happen pretty much every single year. Now, will you be doing all of the things that you need to do? Or are you doing all of the things that you need to do to mitigate the devastation? In this case, no. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at what's happening in California. It's unlike anything that I've ever seen that's happened here in the United States. You've seen stuff like this in videos of countries that are in conflict, countries that are war-torn. Let's take a look. The beautiful state of California.
The death toll continues to climb as these large wildfires spread in Southern California. It is devastating to learn that 24 people have now died in this.
It is just awful. The fires have now scorched more than 60 square miles. That's larger than the whole city of Aurora. Our Charlie.
Fast-moving flames engulfed homes in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood in Los Angeles and came dangerously close to others.
And my heart is in my throat.
Firefighters are dropping water from above as a heavy black smoke cloud forms over the area. Sirens wailed as residents evacuated on foot and by car. Some drivers stuck in gridlock were told by emergency crews to abandon their vehicles as the flames grew close to the road.
I just leave my car right there. Where's your car? The cops say you have to leave it, and I leave my car right there.
The fire came right down to the road, and the fire department came up and said, get out of your cars now.
Some left the area carrying their pets in their arms. This woman got a ride from her neighbors.
The fire was all around us, the trees and everything.
Parts of the Pacific Coast Highway and Interstate 10 were shut down to help evacuate those in the fire's path.
Come on, guys! We gotta go!
A CBS News crew ran from the flames that moved quickly through neighborhoods. The high winds are forecast to continue for days, producing gusts that could top 100 miles per hour in the hills around the city. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Now at 10, the death toll from the Southern California wildfires has now increased to 24. This comes as crews make progress on those wildfires, but the danger is not over. Those strong Santa Ana winds are expected to return. The largest and most threatening fire still the Palisades, with mandatory evacuation orders still in effect. Thousands of firefighters are still out there on the scene, though, as well as heavy trucks, air support. Firefighters are making good work on the Eaton fire, but officials say that structures are still being threatened there tonight, and 300 personnel are still working to contain the Hearst fire.
And sadly, as we mentioned, there are now 24 confirmed fire-related deaths in the Eaton and Palisades fires. The Palisades fire has now burned 23,713 acres and is 13% contained. The Eaton fire has burned over 14,100 acres and is 27% contained. As for the Hearst fire, that's holding steady tonight. 799 acres burned with 89% containment.
Man, this is so disappointing. It's such a tragedy, man. It saddens me, man, because it's different. It's different when you look at it and you see it and you don't know anyone. You do feel bad, and you're like, man, because it's something that you see every year. But when it affects people, that are family and friends, man, you look at this thing through a whole different set of lenses. It's like, wow, they're telling you that this feels like a war-torn country. This feels like a movie. Like, this is surreal. This is what I'm being told. Doesn't even seem like this is reality. And when you hear these when you hear these testimonies from people, man, you can't help but have empathy. So, of course, we're going to look and see, could this have been mitigated? And who are the people that are responsible for leading? You have to be a leader in this. This is why people get elected to political office, because we believe that you are going to lead us and you're going to have the best interests of your citizens in mind. And the more and more I look at this, and the more and more I take a look at, like, Governor Gavin Newsom, he himself is politicizing this as well. It's amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing to me, the dereliction of duty that is going on here. So let's take a look and see what the panel at Fox News has to say about this. There's going to be a clip of Gavin Newsom, who I think he was speaking somewhere, and a lady had spotted him. She was being interviewed. She was being driven around and interviewed, and then she spotted him. They hit a U-turn, came back. She got out of the SUV to talk to him, to confront him about the devastation that's happening in California. And this is the Gavin Newsom that it seems like we always know and we always get.
Listen to this woman confront Governor Newsom.
Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell service.
So let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now.
Everyone who went to school there, they lost their homes. They lost 2 homes because they were living in one and building another. Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be. Has to be. Of course.
Did you hear at the beginning of that soundbite, he said, I'm literally talking to the president right now.
He lied.
He just told that woman. That woman is talking about, that's her kid's school. They've lost everything at the school. The school is gone. And she is in distress. And what does he do? He lies to her.
Just flat out lies.
How many people has he lied to this week?
He lies all the time. That's the whole thing with him. And when you look at Brian is so right about all of these progressive states and cities. You even go all the way to New Orleans and see what the mayor did. You don't know the different assets that you have to protect the sidewalk. That's what's happening in California. And the Republicans have to take this moment as an opportunity to show effectiveness. I think Ron DeSantis, the governor of Virginia, should go to California.
Governor Beshear of Kentucky.
And show them how it's done. Bring your resources there. We heard the president of the United States talking about generators. Why didn't y'all have generators already staged if you need them? The military planes, okay? Brian brought up an interesting point yesterday about them flying through the smoke. They're just now getting the military planes there. Why didn't y'all have those pre-staged? And then Ainsley, we can't leave out that the mayor wasn't there.
Well, exactly. And all these celebrities are now speaking out. That lady, that frustrated lady, was on with Jesse last night, and Jason Bateman's sister.
She had every right to be frustrated. She was frantic. This is her home, and she's watching her home burn down. Her loved ones, her friends, family, her community is in flames, literally. This guy has the nerve to sit up here and say, I am literally on the phone with the president of the United States. And she's, you know what? I don't believe you. You know, let me hear. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a citizen of California, and I am a citizen of the United States of America. This guy, oh, well, you know, I don't have cell service. And this is the same guy that has the nerve to be attacking Elon Musk, who Elon Musk made Starlink available for free so people could, at the very least, be able to communicate via text message. This Gavin Newsom guy, this is what I feel about him, because I believe they were saying that he was like the front runner or one of the main two between him and Kamala to run for president in 2028, right? This guy looks like he's trying to do damage control because he still has his eye on 2028. He talks about Donald Trump, right? And he's going back and forth in the media with Donald Trump, politicizing the situation as well. You're a politician. If this happened to a Republican governor, the same thing would happen. He would be nailed to the wall. The Democrats would be all over this guy. And you know what? The citizens of the United States would be too. Because this right here is a situation that has real life consequences, and it's affecting people. And, you know, even if you don't live in California, you may know people that live in California, you may have family that live in California, or you may know someone that has family and friends in California. So now it affects us all. The things that I've been seeing with these natural disasters that just in this administration has just been horrific. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and it almost feels like, okay, I'm going to say all of the things that I need to say to get elected and then do nothing. It's almost what politics feels like to me. This is what I think about politics. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and have a nice suit. My vernacular is going to be spectacular. I'm going to go ahead and be able to move the crowd. I'm an MC. I'm a master of ceremony. And as long as I could captivate you guys and make you believe me, I'm good. I'll go ahead and collect a paycheck and do nothing. And that's what it seems like politician like Gavin Newsom does. Or he's so focused on Donald Trump that in his head, he's not thinking America or California or citizens. He's thinking, oh, you know, I need to be the tough guy on the Democratic side, the guy that combats Donald Trump and goes against him, because this guy's like running for office in 2028. It feels like it. This is just damage control for him. It's almost like he doesn't even care.
What's her first name? Justine Bateman was on, and she was so frustrated too. And this is James Wood, because remember, President Biden said he blamed this on climate change. James Wood says this fire is not from climate change, you ignorant blank hole. It's because liberal idiots like you elect liberal idiots like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. One doesn't understand the first thing about fire management and the other can't fill the water reservoirs.
Across the board, there's been a failure to figure out, to pre-plan, to pre-position. Karen Bass, the mayor out there, she declared a state of emergency and then she flew to Ghana. And it's like, okay,
Okay, I've been hearing several reports on this too. That Mayor Bass declared it a state of emergency and then flew to Ghana. Why in the world would you do that? Why in the world would you do that? And I have a clip that's coming up here that's very interesting too from the Joe Rogan show, but we'll go ahead and continue here. But that just strengthens my point that I just made earlier in regards to people who are elected to office. They're just there to collect the check and get the benefits of being in office. Well, you know what? We got all this taxpayer dollars and all this money at my disposal. I'll go ahead and do the things that I need to do. And all I have to be able to do is have great speech writers and be able to deliver those speeches and have people enamored with me, and I'm good. People are tired of that. This is why people don't like politicians now.
Going to be something
17 hours.
It's going to be something that's going to change the arc of this city forever. And what is she at? She's at a ceremonial inauguration. From start to finish, all the way from the local neighborhoods right up to the top guy, Joe Biden. They got to figure out what went wrong. The mayor does not like being pressed. Why wasn't there water? Why didn't you pre-plan? Why'd you cut the budget? There's a little bit of what went on yesterday out in the City of Angels that was angry at her.
We're almost 48 hours after this fire started. There's not resources up there. The hydrants aren't working. Where's the National Guard? Where are miles and miles of water tenders? How are we addressing this?
Well,
Your reaction?
First of all, you asked me, was I frustrated by this? Of course, because we all know that this has been an unprecedented event. We also know that fire hydrants constructed.
Real quick. It is an unprecedented event, the level of this, but fires in California are not. This is a common occurrence. This is not an anomaly. Maybe the level of it is, but in my opinion, if you have the correct infrastructure in place to combat this, I feel like it wouldn't have got to this level. And then, you know, of course, people want to talk about the Santa Ana winds. Okay, but still, if you don't have the water supply to combat the fire, of course, the fire is going to spread. They said that the reservoir was completely empty, no water. Fire hydrants have no water.
Massive devastation, and that the number one problem, especially on Wednesday, was the fact that we weren't able to do the air support because of the winds. And so, of course, I am absolutely frustrated by that. I am not sure that is correct, that there are no resources up there, but rest assured, as soon as we are done here, I will follow up on that.
I will say this. I'm wondering how many flights were grounded because President Biden was going to Los Angeles to visit his great-granddaughter. So that has to be investigated, too. Did you clear out the airspace that could have been used? How did the president get in?
Here's the thing, too. We learned a lot after Katrina, right?
Yeah, we did.
When you had that hurricane that went into North Carolina, no one was expecting that. But in California, you do expect wildfires.
Right.
They happen all the time. So when you're the mayor, you would think you would have the proper tanks. The tanks would be filled to the brim. They're saying they were, but are they? Were they?
They didn't have enough.
And they didn't have enough, so you build more. It's just like what happens in New Orleans. After the hurricane came through, they built up the levee system. They fixed it.
Well, she also said that the hydrants weren't properly staged in a way that could sustain a fire like this. You're in California. Why wouldn't you
So
have
build
that
them.
universally
Yeah, fix them.
in the state if you're at risk? I know that this is different from LA. They haven't experienced anything like this in LA before, but there's always the risk, which is why the people try to get the insurance as a result of that.
But yet we can name 4 major fires right in that area.
100%.
So you
So
can't
don't
tell
give an
me.
excuse,
Here's one question. When you have your emergency management meetings, you're all wearing your windbreakers. If there's a fire that goes through 5 counties, would we be able to fight it? And if the answer obviously is no, and that's not good enough.
Now, the police chief there tried to give her some cover in the press conference, but there's a memo of the police chief at the time saying, look, this is going to hurt us. We don't have the proper resources. Guys, we heard some reports from firemen. Let's take the water out of it. Firemen didn't even have the proper equipment. How does that happen? How do you explain that firemen didn't have the proper
their
equipment?
budget was cut.
Yeah,
$17 million.
The owner of the LA Times, historically a left-leaning newspaper, wrote on X last night, fires in LA are sadly no surprise, yet the mayor led the LA Fire Department, cut the LA Fire Department budget by $23 million. Okay, so when we think, if there are budget cuts, what do you think? Okay, not as many trucks? No, it's across the board. They can't afford to hire enough mechanics. They've got yards full of fire trucks and fire engines that cannot leave the field because they don't work. They need mechanics. It's from start to finish. And what have we heard from California? You know, from this couch, we have reported about all the crazy, super liberal policies over the last couple of decades. And over the last couple of months since the election, what has California been doing? They've been trying to Trump-proof California. You know what? They should have fireproofed it. And what they should have done is they should have planned for a really big fire because it happened this week.
They're focused on these DEI recruitment videos that focus on that when they should have been focusing on the things to keep people safe.
I agree with everything that they're saying. We're going to Trump-proof California. That means you're more worried about Donald Trump and possibly running for president in 2028. That's Gavin Newsom. Like he had mentioned, $23 million cut from the budget. You know, this is money that is supposed to prevent fires. So you cut $23 million from the fire budget. Like he said, this affects it across the board. He makes a great point. You know, it affects your ability to hire people, to maintain your equipment, you have fire trucks that are down, and then it's almost like the perfect storm in a negative way. Plus, you have the fire hydrants that have no water in it. The water reserve the water reservoir is empty. Just a bunch of bad decisions upon bad decisions upon bad decisions, and for them, they just want to save face. They're more worried about their political career. Oh, let's blame everyone. And there's a video of the fire chief. She kept all the receipts of all of her concerns. I think it was like, I don't know, man, 30 something correspondence that she had. And basically they were all denied. She was explaining to them, look, man, we can't run an effective operation here if something happens. So the more I dig into this, the more that I find out there was a lot of things that could have been done to mitigate what happened here. But let me show you this next clip where Joe Rogan, this is, I forget how long ago this was, but he tells the story of him talking to a firefighter, and listen to what he has to say about the fires in California.
I talked to a fireman once. He goes, dude, one day, he goes, it's just going to be the right wind and fire's going to start in the right place and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean. And there's not a thing we can do about it. I go, really? He goes, yeah, we just get lucky. He goes, we get lucky with the wind. He goes, but if the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn straight through LA and there's not going to be a thing we can do about it. Because these fires are so big, dude. When they're talking about like thousands of acres that are burning simultaneously with like 40-mile-an-hour winds. and the wind's just blowing embers through the air, and those embers are landing on roofs, and those houses are going up, and they're landing on bushes, and those bushes are going up, and everything's dry. And once it happens in a way where it's so spread out that there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do.
You just have to evacuate, right?
Nothing they can do. They just got to get out of there.
So basically, what this firefighter is telling Joe Rogan is we have been getting lucky. We have been getting lucky that this thing does not go out of control like we think that it can. Let's take a look at this press conference here of President Donald Trump.
If it live to Capitol Hill.
Mr. President, on California, Mr. President, during the pandemic, you often said that you didn't believe that you should bail out blue states that you believe were being mismanaged. Given your criticism of Governor Gavin Newsom, are you willing to work with him, and do you believe that federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes?
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water. And yet they have, the water comes from, you know where? Up north. And it comes down at levels, they give millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop, it's nothing. But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him when he was governor. We worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be the one having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem because you're talking about big, big dollars.
Okay. As you can see, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, he feels, as a lot of us feel, Governor Gavin Newsom is responsible, or he has he's not doing his job to the highest level. He's just not. Let's take a look at a clip from 2019 when Donald Trump was in his first presidency, and he tells Gavin Newsom then. So he was talking about this then. He was talking about what could be done to mitigate the fires in California. So this clip here is from 2019. Take a look.
We're all committed. I'm committed to make sure that we get all of this cleaned out and protected. Got to take care of the floors. You know, the floors of the forests. Very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out. It's going to work out well. But right now, we want to take care of the people that are so badly hurt, the families where they've lost. I mean, a lot of people have been lost. I guess, Jerry, you don't really know what the final. No, we won't know that for a while.
So there is President Trump in 2019 addressing the issues that they were having in California. Once again, this is not an anomaly. This happens in California often. President Trump traveled abroad and he was given advice from president of another country. This is what they did to mitigate the fires that they were having, and they were doing it to a huge success. So Gavin Newsom is probably more concerned about being anti-Trump than being pro-citizen, than being pro-America. You know, to me, it's ridiculous, and we see that more and more. It's painfully obvious. So let's go over to Governor DeSantis, who knows quite a bit about natural disasters because he is the governor of the state of Florida. Let's listen to Governor DeSantis rip the media in regards to how they're trying to attack Donald Trump over this.
The president-elect or a president to be criticizing.
Is it appropriate for people in your industry to try to create division and to try to create narratives anytime these things happen? Now, you're not as interested in doing that because Newsom is a D. If Newsom was a Republican, you guys would go you would have him nailed to the wall for what they're doing over there. And I know we've dealt with it. We just assume in Florida, anytime something happens, it's going to be politicized by the media. So you guys sitting in judgment of Donald Trump, I mean, excuse me, I think your track record of politicizing these things is very, very bad.
Okay, Governor DeSantis. I agree with them. When it's them, they don't want it politicized. But if it was a Republican governor and a Republican mayor, they would politicize the hell out of it. They would be all over it. This thing would be talked about every day, probably 24 hours, 24/7. Could this have been handled better? Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of the state, can't sit here and tell us, oh, I'm investigating. I don't know what happened. I'm investigating what happened, and basically telling us, oh, I'll get back to you. Dude, you're the governor of the state. And then you have the mayor. I mean, come on, man. This right here is Mayor Karen Bass. Dereliction of duty.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Frozen. Have no answers. So this is when she came back from Ghana. So keep this in mind. The chain of the timeline here. You declared the fire an emergency. You go to Ghana. This thing just goes out of control because you don't have the correct processes in place. You don't have the correct infrastructure in place because, like the firefighter said that Joe Rogan was talking to, we have just been getting lucky. And then you cut the budget by $23 million. You have a governor that sits up here and tells us, I don't know what's going on. I'm investigating. Everybody wants to pass this thing along like a game of hot potato. No accountability. This lady is at the airport, just froze, stuck as if she's posing for a picture. Man, let's take a look at the ladies of The View. One of my favorite ladies of The View, Whoopi Goldberg. You already know where she's going with this.
Here's how this works. There was a fire catastrophe in California. Had to do with winds. You know how they always say, oh, the wind. It actually does. The winds move things and sparks move things. And it doesn't matter how much water you have if 900,000 buildings go up at the same time. Now, having lived in California, having lost every house save for one that.
Excuse me for 1 second, man. But you see how the embellishment is? Whoopi Goldberg is going to play damage control. Damage control. If this was the Republican side, she would be totally, whatever she says here, it'd be opposite. You already know it. If it was a Republican governor, if it was a Republican mayor, that's what I'm saying. You have people that's about party. I don't care who the governor is, man, Democrat or Republican. If this was a Republican governor and they had this huge misstep like this, they should be called out on the carpet. They should be held accountable. There should be people looking into it and saying, okay, what could we have done? What preventative measures could we have done? Because this thing right here was exacerbated because we didn't have the correct processes in place. We didn't have water in the fire hydrants. We didn't have water in the reservoir. And you have a mayor that calls for a national emergency, and then after that, subsequently flies out of the country to Ghana. Come on, man.
We ever lived in, I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. This is a catastrophe, and this is what's happened. And let's try to figure out how to work towards not having it happen again. But, we don't control Mother Nature. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn what we want. Mother Nature does what she does. And if you're in the way, this is what happens.
All right, we're going to get back to this press conference in Pasadena as it warrants. But no one has been spared from this inferno, including celebrities like James Woods.
An hour ago.
James, I want to ask you about something that when you said last night we couldn't get any water, there was no water at the hydrants.
Yeah.
A lot has been discussed today about why that is. We're going to get into a little bit more of that in the next segment. But you guys pay, I think, the highest taxes in the United States. If not, you and New York are kind of tied, or Illinois, but among the highest. No water in the hydrants. 17.6 million cut from the fire department. Karen Bass, a recent headline, I think you might have tweeted that out from the New York Post.
Yeah. And our new fire chief, has, and by the way, LA Fire Department is fantastic. The people, it's like the people who work for the federal government, so many of us are good people, but the people in charge, she took over and she put on her bio that her priority, my highest priority, is inclusion, diversity, and equity. That is my priority. And somebody forgot to fill all the reservoirs, I guess, with water, because when I was getting smoke alarms, there was a fire truck parked in front of my house, but they couldn't pump any water because there was none, because they didn't put them in the reservoirs. Okay? And they were busy cutting, look, it's the same we had with all the crime we have in our neighborhood, in Los Angeles, when we had that idiot Gascon. They just didn't care. Everybody was running loose. They were smashing places. You couldn't walk down the street.
A return to competent leadership. This may be a wake-up call. We're not trying to make this political, but when you can't get water and your homes are burning and you have people trapped in their homes who don't have the ability to walk out, that's a problem. That's a real problem that has to be solved. So, James, I'm glad you were, I think you were the first one to actually put that out there last night.
Laura, with all due respect, if it is true that things were handled this way, if it is true that Gavin Newsom is the absolute blithering idiot that I believe he is in the way he has handled fire management in this state again and again and again and again, this isn't a wake-up call. This is the kind of thing they have tribunals for, where they try people and say, you had an oath of office to perform certain duties. When you're the fire chief, this isn't a social justice exercise that you're in charge of. This is you getting water to areas that need water because there are fires in 100-mile-an-hour winds burning houses to the ground.
I hear you. And again, we're going to learn a lot more about this, but we know a lot already. And we're going to get into some of this next segment. Not all was kumbaya out there today. Specifically, one individual who goes by @PiperK on Twitter, on X, I guess a former faculty member at Mizzou, Karen Piper, she tweeted, and she since deleted the tweet, "James Wood's house is burning down. It's karma calling." Retired prof.
Yeah.
University.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, when I read that, I look for a curb so that I can find some place to scrape her off my shoe. I'm more concerned about my neighbors and their homes that they lost. I don't really care what she has to say.
Yeah.
She means nothing to me. She is to me a fleck of spit on the arc of infinity.
That's James Woods, man. He had a few choice words for Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and some professor that tweeted something that wasn't very nice. He had a nice comeback for her as well. I liked it. Basically called her, called her poop on the bottom of his shoe. You have all kinds, insensitive, and they don't care. So, where are we at here? Let's take a look. Once again, President Trump, we got a press conference of him. All I got to say is President Trump has been right about everything so far. So far, he's been right about everything. So check this out.
All the other problems, they were not happy. And it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not they're going to build, or whether somebody else is going to build and build a much lesser home. These were the most expensive homes outside of Palm Beach County. I see a list outside of Palm Beach. These were the most expensive homes anywhere in the world. And I think a lot of them are just not going to go back and build it. Plus, they don't want to be part of a construction site. They don't want to, they're building a home, another one's building, they're building in front of them, behind them, alongside of them. So I think it's a tragedy. I think it's an incredible tragedy. It's also a tragedy for a tax base. And the governors know exactly what I'm talking. And I'd like to hear anybody talk about that. But if you're the governor of a state and you lost thousands of very rich people that were paying a lot of taxes and weren't happy about it, and weren't happy about what's happened to California, which has all the advantages of greatness, but they've had horrible politicians. I think that Gavin is largely incompetent, and I think the mayor is largely incompetent, and probably both of them are just stone cold incompetent. What they've done is terrible. Would anybody have a comment on that? Because when you talk about losing the tax base, you're losing a lot of, you're going to lose a lot of those people permanently. And those people pay billions of dollars in taxes. Governor, what about you?
We got some great property in Louisiana.
Yeah. Well, they'll be moving to a lot of your states. They'll be moving to Florida, I can tell you. I know that. But they're going to be moving you're going to pick up a lot, Texas. So it's a rough situation. I've never seen, I think it's one of the great catastrophes in the history of our country. Not even believable.
Thanks for watching.
President Trump, some choice words for the governor of California, Governor Gavin, and the mayor, Karen Bass. There's going to be a lot of people that are on both sides, okay? And it's going to surprise you how many Democrats are going to ask for this guy to resign. They're going to let this guy have it, possibly the mayor as well. But Gavin Newsom, I think his political future is definitely in doubt. I know they were talking about him potentially running for president. That's done. That's a wrap. That's not going to happen. But if you're not convinced yet, let's take a look at Governor Newsom here. He is the quintessential politician. This guy right here, when people say, I hate politicians, this is what they're talking about. This guy right here.
Governor of California Gavin Newsom made a humiliating blunder when speaking to a reporter from NBC, where he slammed Donald Trump for spreading disinformation after the president-elect criticised Newsom for not ensuring the reservoirs were full to fight the fires. Newsom clapped back, saying all of the reservoirs in Southern California were full, only to be fact-checked by an NBC reporter who told him the Palisades Reservoir was in fact not full, in a humiliating blow to the embattled governor.
I called for him to come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. We have a president of the United States that within 36 hours provided a major disaster declaration over a text. We had support from the president of the United States, Joe Biden, with 100% reimbursement, all the resources you could hope for or imagine, constant communication. I'd like to extend that to the president-elect. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt in reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with, very familiar with them.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir.
Online commentators slammed the governor's lies, with this person saying he lies, gets called out on the lie, realised he can't get away with the lie, retracts. This person agrees, saying, "It amazes me how Gavin Newsom lies so easily with utter impunity and gets caught in real time." This incident is only the latest in a string of embarrassing stuff-ups from Newsom during the Los Angeles fire crisis. The governor was also caught out in a lie where he claimed he was on the phone to the president, but then said he couldn't get service whilst a woman who lost everything pleaded to speak to the president.
Governor, you got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the
Why
call.
is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell service.
So
There's
let's
no
get
cell
it.
service.
Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now.
He was also slammed for backflipping on crime after he warned against looting fire-ravaged homes.
People say no looting, 0 tolerance for looting. That's why these guys are out here, and I'm very grateful for them, particularly for these critical checkpoints that allow law enforcement to move more mobily and do the interior work.
This commentator exposed the hypocrisy, saying Gavin Newsom decriminalised looting under around $1,000. Now he says he's against looting. Typical politician. This commentator agrees, saying classic move, decriminalise it, then act all shocked when it happens. Politicians never fail to play both sides. The constant slip-ups has led many high-profile commentators as well as everyday Americans to call on Newsom's resignation. This commentator slammed Newsom's reaction to the looting, saying, "Illegal immigration is illegal and you proudly welcome illegal aliens to break into our country. No one takes you seriously. Resign."
No one takes you seriously. Resign. Once again, Gavin Newsom. He is the quintessential, I hate politicians because they are snakes, liars. That's him. He is the embodiment of that idea. The idea that people have of politicians. They think that politicians do not have their best interests in mind. This situation really shows that with this guy. I think he had aspirations for the White House. Those are done. You guys need to pick somebody else. This guy right here, I guarantee you there's going to be the Democrats, or I'm guessing I have a strong suspicion that Democrats are going to ask him for him to resign as well. This is a very, very bad look. Very bad look. He just constantly gets caught lying. And people don't want that. That's the thing. People don't want that anymore. They're like, you know what? We're tired of politicians lying to us. They don't have our best interests in mind. They're robbing us blind. You know, they're not doing anything in our best interest. They're doing everything in their best interest. So that's why they fight so hard for public office, because of the benefits of public office. So that's how the majority of Americans they do believe that about politicians. So there you have it, man. Whether you believe this is the Republicans or the Democrat politicizing this, that's beside the point. The question should be, was everything done and prior to this fire to mitigate what is happening right now in California? Was everything done? Were the elected officials, did they do their job to the highest of their abilities? Did they have the people's best interests in mind? Did they put in the correct processes? Was the correct infrastructure in place to mitigate this California fire? Or was it negligence on their part? At some point, you're going to have to call it to the carpet, and you're going to have to hold people accountability. Whatever name you want to put on it, they have a job to do. Did they do their job? And did they do their job in the best interest of the citizens? And did they do their job to the high standards that we put on the office? Simple as that. I myself, I think like Donald Trump. I think it was negligence. And I think this is a great example of dereliction of duty. I mean, I think this is a great example of putting a party before the country, party before your citizens. And you don't operate in a space where you have a mindset to have your American citizens' best interests in mind. This is exactly what we voted against. We're trying to vote this out. And it would not surprise me if Governor Gavin is done. They vote him out. Wouldn't surprise me at all.